In the dead silence of a forgotten hallway, where dust particles float lazily in dim light, echoes a quiet reminder of a once bustling school. Desks, now abandoned and cloaked in dust, sit askew, as if their occupants left in a hurry. Welcome to the world of abandoned schools, places frozen in time, yet echoing with whispers of a past that refuses to let go. Tonight, we invite you to join us on a journey into 3 such haunted institutions. Unlike other places of learning, these schools house more than mere memories. They are filled with tales of fear and shadow, stories whispered by walls that have witnessed more than we can imagine. Each of these schools carries a chilling legacy, one that draws explorers and urban legends alike. But there's one advantage for you. You'll experience these dark halls, strange sounds, and unsettling presences from the safety of your own home. As we delve into these stories, imagine yourself walking down these deserted corridors, hearing the faint creaks of floors as if under the weight of invisible footsteps, feeling the chill that grips the air, and sensing that you are not alone. These are not ordinary buildings. They are places where darkness lingers and the unknown waits around every corner. Are you ready to step into this eerie journey with us? Remember, while you're safe on this side of the screen, in the world of these stories, safety is only an illusion. Story 1. The Hilltop School, perched atop an isolated hill, far from the eyes of the curious, lies a school shrouded in mystery. The Hilltop School. Built over a century ago, it's an imposing structure, standing with the stern, silent authority of an old sentinel. But legends tell that long before its construction, this very hill was a gathering place for strange rituals. Stories circulated among locals for generations, and some believe that whatever was summoned here never truly left. The journey up the hill to reach this abandoned place is almost enough to deter most. The path winds through overgrown thickets and trees, whose branches claw at those who dare pass. But for those who reach the top, an eerie reward awaits. A crumbling, neglected building, its large, empty windows staring blankly, like hollow eyes observing those who approach. Entering the school is like stepping into another world. The stale, damp air carries the smell of age and abandonment, a mixture of dust, mold, and something else. An unsettling, metallic scent, like rusted iron. The floors are coated in a thick layer of grime, disturbed only by the occasional trail left by brave explorers who came before. Desks, chairs, and chalkboards remain in place, but all bear the scars of time. Graffiti on the walls tells of others who entered and left in a hurry, scribbling messages of warning or final notes of fear. Years ago, a group of amateur explorers decided to spend the night here, drawn by the school's dark reputation. They arrived as the sun was setting, determined to prove their bravery. The first few hours were quiet, almost peaceful, as they set up their equipment and explored the rooms. But as midnight approached, an unnatural chill descended, a cold that seemed to seep through walls, chilling them to the bone. It was then that they heard it, faint whispers echoing down the corridors. At first, they dismissed it as a trick of the wind, but the whispers grew louder, more distinct, like the hushed conversations of unseen students. Shadows began to dance at the edge of their flashlight beams, darting out of sight just as they turned to look. One of them claimed to have seen a small figure standing at the end of a corridor. A child, he thought, dressed in outdated clothes, who vanished as he blinked. Despite their fear, they pressed on, each step heavier than the last. The silence was shattered by a loud bang, like the slam of a door, though none had moved. Suddenly, an overwhelming sense of dread filled the air. They could feel it, an invisible presence that seemed to watch their every move, as if the walls themselves had eyes. Breaths quickened, heartbeats thundered in chests, and panic clawed at their nerves. In a last desperate attempt to escape, they rushed toward the exit. But as they neared the door, one explorer felt an ice-cold grip on his shoulder, holding him back. He turned, seeing nothing, yet feeling an undeniable force that wanted him to stay. With a final effort, he broke free, and they stumbled out and into the night, breathless and shaken, None of them spoke as they descended the hill, each haunted by what they had encountered. They left with more questions than answers, their disbelief shattered by the dark reality of what lingers in the Hilltop School. The whispers, the shadows, the unseen presence. These were no tricks of the imagination. To this day, those who visit the Hilltop School report the same cold, the same eerie whispers echoing down the empty halls. And if you listen closely, they say, you might even hear the soft footsteps of students long gone, wandering the halls, forever bound to the place they called home. Story 2. The Wallington boarding school, nestled deep in the misty mountains, stands the Wallington boarding school, an institution once known for its grand Gothic architecture and sweeping views. Now, however, the building is little more than a ghostly relic. Grey stone walls climb high, their once proud facades now draped in ivy and decay, giving the school an air of solemn abandonment. Behind its formidable gates, Wallington hides secrets as dense as the fog that perpetually veils its grounds. This school was once a place of prestige, hosting the children of well-to-do families from the surrounding towns. But rumours began to circulate about a tragic disappearance. A young girl who had arrived one semester and, as quickly as she'd appeared, vanished without a trace. Her absence went unspoken by staff, leaving only the students to speculate in hushed voices. But some say that Wallington's walls absorbed her story, refusing to let it be forgotten. Years later, a security guard was assigned to watch over the abandoned school grounds, a lonely job, but a quiet one, he thought. Yet, from his first night, he felt an unease, a prickling sensation at the back of his neck, as if he were never truly alone. His shifts began with routine walks through the deserted halls, torch in hand, his footsteps echoing in the vast empty silence. It wasn't long, however, before he started noticing peculiar things. A book lying open in the library, a faint fragrance of roses in a place that hadn't seen a living soul in years. One evening, while patrolling, he noticed a dim light flickering at the far end of the corridor, spilling out from the library doors. Confused, he approached, feeling a cold sweat prickling his skin. Pushing the heavy door open, he found nothing but the eerie glow from his own flashlight bouncing off dusty shelves. He turned to leave, but as he did, a faint sound stopped him in his tracks. The soft, barely audible hum of a lullaby drifting through the air. Heart pounding, he turned back, scanning the room, and that's when he saw it. A single book had fallen from a shelf, lying open in the middle of the floor, its pages blank except for one word scratched in red ink. Remember. The air grew thick with the sweet, sickly smell of roses, overwhelming him as he stumbled back, his senses dulled by the cloying perfume. Frantic, he tried to leave, but the door, which had creaked open so easily, was now stuck fast. Panic mounted, and he struggled with the door, his fingers scraping the wood as the humming grew louder, almost deafening. When the door finally gave way, he bolted down the corridor, feeling as though unseen eyes followed his every move. But as he neared the entrance, he felt a shiver run through him, the inexplicable urge to turn around. There, at the end of the hallway, stood a figure, barely visible in the dim light. A young girl, her face obscured by shadows, watched him. She didn't move, didn't speak, but somehow he knew. It was her, the girl from the stories. And though she was yards away, he could see her eyes glinting, sorrowful yet piercing, a silent plea frozen in time. Breaking free from his stupor, he fled into the night, vowing never to return. The next day, he reported his experiences, only to be met with skepticism and whispered warnings. No one believed him, yet he could never shake the feeling of her presence, or the faint smell of roses that clung to his clothes. To this day, locals tell stories of Wallington's ghostly visitor. Some say the girl still wanders the corridors, searching for someone to remember her, bound to the school by a secret long buried. Visitors report glimpses of her shadow in the windows, the lingering scent of roses, and the haunting notes of a lullaby drifting from the walls. And each tale serves as a chilling reminder. At Wallington, the past never truly rests. Story 3. The School of Forgotten Children. On the outskirts of a nearly deserted town stands a decrepit building known locally as the School of Forgotten Children. Built in the 1950s, it was intended to be a place of learning and growth for the local youth, but it has since taken on a far darker reputation. The townspeople barely speak of it, but when they do, their voices drop to whispers, as if uttering its name might somehow summon the spirits that still haunt its halls. The school closed abruptly in the late 1970s, following a series of strange and tragic incidents. Children had begun disappearing from their homes, vanishing without a trace. Rumours swirled. Some whispered about an abductor lurking in the shadows, while others believed something far more sinister was at play. Eventually, enrollment dwindled and the school was abandoned. But even after its closure, the mysterious disappearances continued, casting a lasting shadow over the place. Now, years later, the school is left to decay, hidden among overgrown bushes and trees, as if nature itself seeks to cover its existence. The atmosphere inside is suffocating, filled with a thick, musty smell that speaks of years of neglect. The floors are littered with remnants of its past, notebooks with childish scribbles, dusty toys, and broken desks, scattered haphazardly, as if abandoned in haste. One night, a group of paranormal investigators decided to explore the school, hoping to capture evidence of its infamous hauntings. Armed with cameras and recording devices, they entered the building under the cover of darkness. The silence was unsettling, broken only by the occasional creak of floorboards underfoot. Every step seemed to echo, as if the very walls were listening. They wandered through the dimly lit halls, but it wasn't long before they began to feel a presence. A chill hung in the air, unnatural and biting, prickling at their skin. Then, faintly at first, they heard it. Soft, distant laughter, like that of children playing, carried by an invisible breeze. The sound seemed to come from every direction, filling the empty corridors with a life long since lost. As they moved deeper into the school, the laughter faded, replaced by a low whispering, unintelligible, yet persistent. One of the investigators felt a tug on his sleeve, but when he turned, there was nothing there. Another felt something cold brush against her cheek, as though a small hand had reached out from the darkness. Despite the fear creeping into their hearts, they pressed on, drawn by a morbid curiosity. In one of the classrooms, they found a peculiar sight. A row of small, old-fashioned desks, each topped with a single toy, perfectly preserved despite the dust covering everything else. A doll with hollow, staring eyes sat at the front, her face frozen in a grim smile, her head tilted as if watching them enter. And as they stood there, taking in the eerie tableau, one of the investigators swore he saw the doll's head move, just slightly, as if nodding in acknowledgement of their presence. Panic set in, and they began to retreat. But as they turned to leave, the laughter returned, louder this time, echoing down the hallways, mingling with the faint sound of footsteps running alongside them. It was as if the children, forgotten and left behind, were now trying to play with their new visitors. The investigators raced towards the exit, but the doors refused to budge, trapping them in the shadows of the past. Finally, in a desperate attempt, one of them forced a window open, and they scrambled out into the night. They left without looking back, the eerie laughter still ringing in their ears as they disappeared into the safety of the outside world. To this day, visitors claim that if you step into the School of Forgotten Children, you'll hear the laughter of those lost souls, trapped forever in the halls they once called home. Some even report seeing small shadows darting out of the corner of their eyes, as if the children still wait for someone to find them, and finally, to remember. As we leave behind these eerie halls and shadow-filled rooms, a question lingers. What is it about abandoned places that captivates us? Why are we drawn to buildings left to decay, especially those cloaked in mystery and fear? For many, these places are more than mere remnants of the past. They are windows into stories that defy explanation, filled with whispers and memories that time hasn't erased. In these forgotten schools, where laughter once echoed and lives took shape, something profound remains. A reminder that even silence has its own stories to tell. For each of these schools, history has left a mark. At the Hilltop School, voices still whisper in the wind, a reminder of lives that vanished without reason. Wallington Boarding School continues to beckon those curious enough to step beyond its iron gates, where a lost soul waits in the shadows. And at the School of Forgotten Children, the playful laughter of those who never left reminds us that some spirits simply refuse to fade away. Perhaps our fascination with haunted places lies in the thrill of exploring the unknown from a safe distance, of feeling the adrenaline of fear without the danger. Or maybe, in these stories, we see reflections of ourselves, our own memories, our fears, our questions about what truly lies beyond. These buildings, once brimming with life, are now frozen in time, yet they pulse with an energy that herrscht da. But our journey doesn't end here. Beyond these schools lie countless other places, each with its own tale of haunting and mystery, waiting to be uncovered. Abandoned hospitals, forgotten mansions, desolate theatres, places where the walls, like those of these schools, hold secrets and shadows. So if you're brave enough to return, join us as we continue exploring the spaces where history and the supernatural intertwine. Until then, remember, sometimes it's the places we leave behind that stay with us the longest.